Hello and welcome to Tarot Electric. I am Mary Schock. I am going to pull a tarot card for you, the listener, in this present moment across time and space to reach you wherever you are right now. Ooh, we got death. Okay, let's talk about it. Death is a card of transition, uprising, and total upheaval. Death is a place we reach when we are ready to completely let go of our old self so that we can be reborn anew. But death is that moment of letting go, saying goodbye to what was once true for us that no longer serves us. And in death, we reach this empty nothingness, and that is the ground for transformation. Death is a place for grief, and it is also a fertile ground for regrowth. So take this time to cut cords and say goodbye to whatever is not serving you in your life, because death is here to herald in the new and to make space for new growth. But it comes with a revolution, and it comes with an uprising that starts with the soil. So I hope that you are all excited to do the personal work that death offers and stay strong in your work. This energy is here for you now to allow you to strip your life down to the bones, and then it can be rebuilt. Many blessings. Today's guest on the podcast is Greg Hatem. Greg is the co-owner of Bazaar in Hamden, an amazing oddities shop that carries my tarot deck, the Summer Tarot Deck. So Greg and I talk about all things occult. We talk taxidermy. We talk Oddfellows. So I really hope you guys enjoy, and thank you, Greg, for being on the podcast. You'll also hear us talk about Greg's band Natural Velvet and their upcoming album release and tour. So enjoy. Okay, Greg.
Hey, Mary.
Hi.
How's it going?
Thanks for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Greg Hatem.
Hatem.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Thank you so much for being on Tarot Electric, and welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Cool. So you are the proprietor of Bazaar.
Yeah, co-owner with my partner, Brian.
Cool.
Yeah.
And drummer in Natural Velvet.
Correct. Guilty.
Yeah. What else do you do? Like, what other hats do you wear? Do you have anything else that you want to, like?
I've been playing music for a while, writing a lot of songs on my own, too.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly music and this store.
Yeah,
so
that's
two big ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps me
Okay.
pretty busy.
Well, I just think it's a perfect fit to have you on Tarot Electric because you carry my tarot deck, the Summer Tarot Deck here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're happy to have it here.
Well, I was just really excited for it to be at Bazaar, and this is the only place in Baltimore where you can buy the deck.
Well, we're honored.
I just love your shop.
Thanks. Thank you.
So I'm from Hamden.
Nice.
And I grew up here.
You're OG.
Yeah, and my grandfather actually grew up in Hamden too.
Wow.
So Bazaar is one of my favorite shops in Hamden.
Oh, thanks.
Because I think it speaks to like the weirdness of this place.
It's a weird neighborhood, and we try to highlight that a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
How long has Bazaar been open?
We're coming up on 4 years. July will be our 4th year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations!
So, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
feels like it's been here forever.
I was gonna say I feel like I just opened it. Time flies, but yeah, it's been a learning experience, but a good one. And knock on wood, we're doing all right. So,
good.
Yeah.
Are you from Baltimore?
From the Baltimore area. Yep.
Cool.
I grew up in Hamilton when I was a little kid. Then my parents moved out to Harford County.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what about like oddities and the morbid stuff here at Bazaar. What attracts you to that? Have you always been into it?
I've always just been a little freak. I've been a weirdo my whole life, and there's just something about strange objects that like attracts. I feel like a kinship, and yeah, it was kind of just opportunity. The space became available for pretty cheap, at least by Hamden standards, and just kind of seemed like a good thing to jump into. It was definitely an experiment at first, but it's kind of morphed into a real business. It's my full time job, and yeah, I'm pretty excited to be here.
Were you always a collector? Like even as a little kid, did you have like a weird box of?
I was never I wouldn't say I was ever like a skull collector or anything like that, but I always had like an eye for objects. I always one of the companies that we carry some products from, accoutrements, also called RG McPhee. They I used to be obsessed with their stuff when I was a kid, and I would try to collect everything they made, and like there's just a bunch of weird things like that. And now it's kind of funny because we carry their products in the store.
Oh,
But yeah, it's just something that I've always had an eye out for things that just caught my attention that were strange.
what are some of your favorite things that you carry? Like, what do you carry in Bazaar that it wouldn't be Bazaar if they weren't
Without,
here? You know.
I think our baby's first tentacle is one of our best sellers. It's basically a little baby face that hangs on the wall with a giant pink tentacle coming out of it. We've had some variations on it too, with little plants and gator hands and weave, and also a little smaller baby coming out of a larger baby's mouth. This like really strange thing that's not necessarily like super valuable and doesn't cost very much, but it's just really weird, and it's a nice little souvenir from the store. That's like one of our signature products, maybe. We have a whole range of different skulls and more exotic things. But for me personally, I tend to go for like the folk art kind of things, like strange props from fraternal societies, or weird masks, or like the carnival knockdown clowns that people used to throw the ball at. That kind of stuff, like just weird things that are objects that kind of have a folky sort of element to them.
The all the fraternity stuff is really attractive to me too, just because in studying tarot, you definitely brush up against
Yeah.
Masonic history.
There's definitely a Venn diagram there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have like the robes, so much.
Yeah, we have a lot of. We just got actually a bunch in of the Odd Fellows mostly.
Odd Fellows.
Ceremonial robes and costumes. They were a strange bunch. They like to do a lot of reenactments of different stories, mostly from the Bible. So they needed a whole lot of different costumes and masks and props and things. So they're all very collectible nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you look at the costumes and stuff, can you tell what biblical stories they're like? Do you know what kind of stuff they were reenacting?
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's obvious, like they made specific masks for Bible characters. Goliath was one of David versus Goliath was one of their favorite stories, and they made this giant paper mache mask of Goliath. They've had a few of them in before, but that's like an obvious one. But some of them are less obvious. They also wanted people to think that they were older than they were, like the whole society was older than it was, so they kind of fetishized a lot of medieval sort of fashion.
Yeah.
So a lot of their garments are like reminiscent of that. But most of them that we have, at least, are from like turn of the century through the 1930s.
Okay.
But
where do you even find this stuff?
It's around. We've had friends who have actually cleaned out old lodges when the lodge is shutting down, or to raise money to keep it going. Sometimes they'll sell off things from their lodges. So it exists. Other people just kind of deal with it
Right.
professionally, and we just buy it from them. But yeah, most of it's because they still exist today, but a lot of the chapters are getting pretty old, and there's not a whole lot of young blood to keep it going. So it comes to a point where a lot of them just shut down, unfortunately.
Who's buying these things? Other collectors?
Other collectors, people who are just drawn to it because it's so strange, or because they, or maybe they heard that their great uncle was an odd fellow once or something, and it kind of has a significant meaning to them. But yeah, I mean, they kind of sell themselves though. A lot of the props and things, they're just really strange, and just catches your eye immediately.
Yeah, I could definitely see like needing to take home a Goliath mask for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of their symbolism is um, kind of vague, and sort of like it'll just be like one eye or three chain links or like a hand on a heart. Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's sort of, it's almost so vague that it's universal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are drawn in by it.
Yeah, I think that's like you could say that same thing about tarot actually,
Yeah.
and like so much occult or like metaphysical work.
Right.
It's even though they can have very specific meanings to the symbols, they are so universal. Like that.
Yeah, and you kind of get out of it what you want to in some ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have like a most wild story about any one item that you've ever brought into the shop? Do you have a crazy story?
Oh,
no pressure.
I mean, I have fun stories about acquiring things. You go out and look for things, and sometimes you get really lucky, and that's always fun, and it's good memories. As far as like a strange story, sometimes people will bring us in really weird things, like completely unsolicited, and you have no idea it's going to happen, and it'll catch you off guard. One time, someone brought us in these sculptures that are actually made out of pig intestines and glass beads and gold wire, and it's very strange, and I don't think you'll ever see anything quite like it. A lot of time and effort went into that, but it just sort of like fell into our lap, so that's kind of weird.
That's super weird.
Yeah.
That definitely fits the bill of pig intestine sculpture. Yeah.
Someone once brought in an exhumed casket that had been a part of a forensic investigation, that like the remains had been reburied in a different casket, but it was sort of just like the odd casket out, but it had dirt on it and stuff. It was like, yeah.
Do you ever feel like there are ghosts in here? Do you believe in ghosts?
I don't know. It's hard to say. We get a lot of old antique Ouija boards here because Baltimore has a rich history in Ouija board production, but also we get some unusual ones in that have a good history to them. And we had a seance in here once, and it was successful, I would say. Yeah, we definitely channeled something.
Wow. So, I mean, don't tell me what you can't tell me about the seance, but what can you tell me about the seance?
It actually spelled out someone's name who was someone in the room who wasn't really touching the planchette, but it was like their brother, and it was someone that we didn't know, and it was a long name too, so it was kind of like, okay, that's...
Whoa.
It's like, even if I had been moving it myself or someone had been moving it, to spell that name out, not knowing this person or their brother's name, that's kind of weird.
That's super weird.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. But I don't know. I mean, it's another thing. You kind of take from it what you want. Some people will say it's legit. Some people won't. But it's all in sort of good fun.
Have you visited the Ouija board grave?
Yeah, that was actually installed in Greenmount Cemetery by a friend of ours who runs the Talking Board Historical Society, which is kind of a group in the U.S. that kind of, their mission is to sort of preserve the history and that kind of thing. And they had noticed that the gravestone was kind of in disrepair, so they raised money and restored it with the actual Ouija headstone.
So the original headstone didn't have the Ouija board picture or like engraving.
Right.
Cool. When did they install that?
Oh, it was, I want to say 2010, but it might have been slightly sooner or later. But yeah, they're also the ones that put on OuijaCon in Baltimore 2015, which was like the first ever convention about Ouija. And that was quite an interesting.
You were there.
Yeah, I was vending there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it drew a lot of people. It was definitely a weird. There was like a traveling museum of pretty much every Ouija board ever made, which is an entire giant room full of Ouija boards of like one of a kind. Some things that probably you'll only see this one because it's the only one in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, it was intense, dating all the way back to like 1890, and it was yeah, that was really cool to see. Some of like the original stencils from when they were making them. There's really neat history there, and Baltimore is the epicenter of that history, I guess. So it was cool to do it.
Do any of the vintage talking boards do they all generally look like what we picture when we think of a Ouija board, or are there any that are
there's a lot of variations. I guess the most common variation was like different themes, like the Egyptian luck board, and it would have like the pharaoh on it and that kind of symbolism. And then there's others that are a little more. Today we might say they're culturally insensitive. Excuse me, but yeah, it's just kind of different. Like like this one's from Africa, or this one's, but it's just, very obviously mass marketed, that kind of thing. Yeah. But the original concept was just the planchette, which is the piece that you move over the letters. It was just the planchette with a pencil in it, and you would write it out. The spirits would actually write with the pencil.
Okay.
As you can imagine, that kind of didn't work as well because if it did spell anything, you could kind of tell by the handwriting who it might have been in the room, or like if it was someone who was moving it, or oftentimes it would just be like a line, a squiggly line, which you weren't really able to get much from. So to clarify things, I guess they invented the board that you would move the planchette over. But yeah, there's all kinds of variations that they made of different companies that would different things that it could point to other than letters, or different like answers that were already predefined, or I guess other like animal symbols and things like that that would correspond to people's lives and things. But
I'm not sure I would use a Ouija board. I'm honestly pretty scared of them. Like I would definitely be worried about that.
Yeah,
Not to say that you should be worried.
No,
that's just me.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah, I think it really just depends on how sensitive and how sympathetic you are to it. Some people, they are expecting it not to work, and so for them it might not work.
Right.
Other people who are more in tune with it, and they might actually find that it is working, or something's coming through that they didn't expect, or it's just making them feel a way that they didn't expect. And you can draw whatever conclusion you want from that. But
yeah, it's like I believe it would work, and that's why I'm scared of it.
Right, exactly.
Because I believe in it. But I feel like the Ouija board opens you up to so much in a way that some other forms of, I don't even know if you would call Ouija board like divination, but
right.
Other forms of like talking to spirit can be more controlled.
Right, sure. Yeah, because it really is open-ended. They could spell out anything, and it could make you feel any type of way.
And I believe that spirits are all around us, so I would definitely be like, who are we talking to here?
Right. Yeah, but even if you don't feel that, even if that's not your personal belief, it could still make you feel a certain way that you're not ready to feel.
Yeah.
So even people who aren't necessarily spiritual or don't really even believe in it, they might feel a certain way because of it, whether or not they believe.
It might make them believe.
It might make them believe,
get that feeling.
Or they might be scared in that they aren't as sure as they were before, or something like that. So.
Yeah. Did you ever visit the Dime Museum in Baltimore?
I never did. I wish I had. I guess it closed in 2007. And I've seen a lot of the pieces from it.
Where was it even?
It was on Maryland Avenue. I think it was kind of like now what we call Station North area on Maryland Avenue.
I went, but I was very young. I remember going with my family.
Yeah.
So I didn't remember where it was, but I remember going really well, and I remember seeing like Abe Lincoln's turd in a jar, and then like downstairs, maybe weird skeletons or something, and like I remember you could stick your gum on this
Right.
mannequin
Yeah.
that was like covered in gum. Those are the things I remember.
Totally. Yeah.
I remember going with my whole family.
Yeah. No, it was definitely the thing. A lot of the pieces still. I've seen a lot of them in private
Sure.
collections and things. Dick Horn, who did a lot of the gaffs like Lincoln's Turd and that kind of thing, he still lives in the area, I believe. And James Taylor, who also who co-founded it, he has a lot of things in a storage locker in East Baltimore. It's just gathering dust, unfortunately. But yeah, what a place, and hopefully he'll do something with the stuff that he has. Because I mean, it'd be a shame not to, you know.
Well, I feel like this place kind of keeps that tradition
Thanks.
on in like a really beautiful way.
Thanks. Yeah, there's actually my friend Chris LaMartina and Melissa LaMartina. They're filmmakers and she's an actress and whatnot. But they opened a dime museum in a record store called Protean Records in South Baltimore, kind of like in the Otterbein neighborhood. But it's sort of like in the back of this record store. They made a little dime museum, and it's really, really worth going to. It's completely free. It's just in the back of this record store, and it's so much fun. It's, I mean, it's not a huge thing, like it's not like a giant museum, but definitely worth the trip if you're in the area.
Oh, I totally want to go.
Yeah, you have to go.
Will you say the name again of the record store?
Protean Records, Protean.
I've heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, Protean Records, and I think it's called Dr. Gloom's Crypt of Curiosities is the name of it. I could be getting that wrong. Sorry, Chris and Melissa, if you're listening. But yeah, definitely they have events maybe once a year too. They just had one with a bunch of different lecturers, and yeah, it's just a really, really cool place.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to look that up. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the taxidermy that's in here? Because I think that's something that I think of when I think of Bazaar. I think of the taxidermy pieces, and I think of the classes,
Yeah,
too.
Totally. Yeah, we're very lucky to have taxidermy workshops maybe 3 or 4 times a year, depending on the schedules. But our friend Divya and Tharman comes down from Brooklyn to teach them, and they're just a lot of fun. It's a long day of taxidermy because you start and finish in the class, so it's about a 6 to 8 hour class. So it's a long day, but it's totally worth it, and you get to leave with your little creation. But yeah, we carry a lot of taxidermy in the shop as well. Most of it's vintage or antique. Some things are newer, made by friends of ours, including Divya, who teaches here too. But yeah, it's weird stuff. There's a lot of different kinds of it. There's like more traditional trophy mounts. Those tend to be like from a hunt. The ones that we have like that are from like the 60s and 70s mostly. But then there's all kinds of fantasy taxidermy and things that are a little more unusual. And we occasionally get some really nice pieces like that. And we also do things like the wet specimens, which are not taxidermy per se, but it's another method of preservation. And we do those here.
Oh, is that the wet specimens? That's like floating in the
like in a
right.
jar. Yeah.
And what kind of stuff is in there? Like vertebrae or
usually whole specimens, typically.
Like the whole little mouse or
something. Or
yeah.
something. Yeah. We've had a lot of different exotic wet specimens in. One time we had a baby kangaroo that was stillborn. Yeah, it's kind of sad that its life ended so soon, but glad to be immortalized forever in a jar. And then we've had other things like organs and that kind of stuff. Basically, it comes from recycling things that have either died naturally or, unfortunately, roadkill. Sometimes like farm waste, that kind of thing. Things that would normally be thrown out that aren't necessarily in pristine condition for taxidermy, but can still be preserved in a jar.
You do that here?
Yeah.
Where did you learn to do that? You're just like, oh, I'm just going to teach myself how to preserve.
We got some pointers from some professionals and read up a little bit on it. It's actually not too difficult. The difficult part is that the chemical formalin, which you use to do the preservation, is somewhat dangerous, and it's one of those like, don't try this at home, kids, kind of things, because
Fair point to make.
without protection, it can be very dangerous. Um, but yeah, once they're treated with the formalin, they're just in isopropyl alcohol to keep them sterile. So.
So if you ever have anything that comes into the shop that's like vintage tarot related, or like divination related, will you call me?
Yes.
Will you let me know?
Yes, definitely.
Have you ever had any weird stuff come in?
Not like antique tarot decks necessarily. We've had a lot of magic tricks that are kind of cool. They're not the same, obviously, but they have that kind of mystic sort of vibe. I'm trying to think offhand. I can't think of any specific tarot things that we've had.
That's okay. Just look out.
Okay, I'll be on the lookout. Sure.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
Do you have any history with tarot, or you carry some tarot-y stuff?
There's another fantastic store in the neighborhood called Crystals, Candles, and Cauldrons, and they kind of collect a whole bunch. I mean, they sell a whole bunch of tarot decks and that kind of thing, so I don't want to step on them at all, but there are a few decks that we carry just because we are in love with them, and yours is one of them.
Thank you.
But but other things like that. But anything antique like that, we'll definitely buy and sell. We occasionally get like magic tricks, that kind of thing, that are antique, that are pretty cool. I can't think of any antique tarot stuff that we've had.
Well, maybe it'll come in now that we called it out into the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it must be like a whole little world of people that collect these kinds of oddities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it seems like you have a network in Baltimore and New York and all over.
Yeah, there's stores that are similar to ours all over the country, and we're all kind of friends, and we all talk to each other about it and stuff.
Get together for a party?
Yeah.
It would be the weirdest party.
Yeah, it gets a little weird. I guess they're kind of far flung around the country, but whenever we're on tour or going around, I'd like to go and see all of them. Metro Velvet will be heading out, I guess, next month, and we'll be hitting some towns that have some good stores in them, so I like to go check them out then. But yeah, no, there are a lot of collectors who are in the area. We get a lot of customers from like DC area, a lot from Pennsylvania too. But people, they have very specific things they're looking for, and if you post something like that, they're there. You know what I mean? If they have to drive 2 hours to get there, then that's fine by them because they're just like on a mission. So we do get a lot of destination customers like that. But
yeah, of course, because everything in here is so unique. So if that's what you're looking for, distance would make no difference.
Yeah, and we also ship things all the time, so we have an online kind of sales thing too. But
where are you touring with Natural Velvet?
Natural Velvet, we're going on tour June 9th through 19th, so 10 shows. We're starting in Chicago, we're doing the Midwest, and then we're headed south, going down to New Orleans and kind of look back up. So we're playing 10 shows in 10 days.
Whoa. A
lot of driving, but it's going to be worth it.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. And your record is coming out.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this will air before the record release or after. So our record release is June 2nd, Friday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're having a big show at the Auto Bar. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, we recorded it almost a year ago. We wrote it over a year ago, so it's kind of been brewing for a little while, but we're really happy to putting it out on Friends Records, which is a great record label that's based here in Baltimore, and they've been so kind to us, and they're releasing it on vinyl, CD, and tape, so the trifecta, and we're just really stoked.
Mirror to Make You.
It's called Mirror to Make You. Yep. It was I guess, recorded last year, coming out this year. We got to record it with one of our heroes, Martin BC, who has BC Studios in New York. But he's recorded so many wonderful records there in the 80s, like Sonic Youth records and like all those, the records that I grew up listening to. And it's the same exact studio with the same layout and everything. So to be in that space and just be like humbled by all of these people who were there before us, it was a really amazing experience. And then we mixed it here in Baltimore with a good friend, Rob Girardi, who works at Right Way Studios in Remington, and that was a treat. It was a lot of fun to make, and we're just really happy to put it out finally.
Oh, that sounds like a total dream.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a long process, but it's that much better now because we kind of everything was very on purpose.
The video is amazing that you put
thanks.
out.
Yeah, It's All Mine is the name of the song.
It's all mine.
Yeah, and that was mostly Corey Osterman, who's the bassist and vocalist. That was her vision, and she kind of directed pretty much every part of it, and it's just kind of like this perfect tableau of the song, really, because it's kind of all about feminine power and wrath and just being in control of every situation.
It's such a good video, so everyone should go watch it. And watching it was so fun for me because I was like, oh, I know that dude in sparkly hot pants. I know that dude in gold hot pants. I know that dude in gold hot pants. So it's really, really fun. Like a bunch of hunks and like so cool.
It's definitely a who's who of Baltimore super hunks.
Yeah. It's just such a good video and such a good song.
Thanks.
I'm excited for you guys to have your release.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have, beyond the release of the album, we have another video in the works that should be out sometime this summer, probably late summer.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, we're pretty excited about it. It's our first, I guess, like, big release. So we're pretty stoked on it.
Amazing.
Thanks.
10 shows in 10 days. How are you even going to find time to visit your favorite oddity shop?
It's gonna be a in and out kind of thing, unfortunately.
Will you take the whole band?
Oh yeah, they like to come
They're
to
into
the shops. Yeah, we went to Woolly Mammoth in Chicago last time we were out, and that store is just amazing. Also Hale, which is in Nashville, is a great store. But yeah, there's stores like ours all around the country, and they all have unique things, so it's really cool to check them out.
I'm sure New Orleans is going to be good too.
New Orleans I'm so excited about because I've actually never been to New Orleans.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it's kind of the wrong way to do it, just going there for one night, but yeah, when we were booking it, we were like, should we leave an extra day between shows?
Would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been. But,
no, you're going to love it. You're just going to be like, oh, I want more, and go back another time.
That's the plan. Yeah, we'll just
so much magic there.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it all.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Do you think that creating music has this like magical occult quality to it? Because I see a lot of like musicians that feature like magic and the occult and spirituality in the music.
Totally. Yeah, that's like another project of mine called Moth Broth. It's very much like mysticism kind of themed. It's just a duo, myself and Jake Budens, who he used to live in Baltimore. He moved to New Orleans actually for school, but he does all kinds of theater stuff with Annex Theater and with his own project called Dream Baby. But he and I have been making music that's definitely like magic themed, definitely more in that like witchy kind of realm. Although Natural Love is pretty witchy too.
Super witchy.
Yeah.
It's like dark goddess, like wrath.
Very much that. Yeah, like, that's the aesthetic.
Bite your head off kind of a vibe.
Right. Yeah, totally. But yeah, there's a lot of music is its own strange beast, and there's definitely an overlap with the mystical world for sure, and just getting into music theory and stuff, and how different patterns of intervals can make you feel a certain way. It is magic, and just like different tonal modes and that kind of thing. Each one has a different feeling behind it and has a different sort of character to it, and you can see it in people It's like, oh, that's a Dorian mode, or that's like people's behavior and that kind of thing, because it's just so the feelings and the expectations that it sets up for you. It creates a character, and it's weird. It's really weird. People think of music as like I don't know, as like something to listen to, or just something to put on when they're bored or whatever. But there's a real mysticism to it for sure.
It's a transformer,
It
right?
is,
And like a
yeah.
transporter.
It does, yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, and something about how different, just different melodic structures make you, like the tendency of the melody, how it makes you feel a certain way, and it's hypnotic sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever been hypnotized?
I not formally, but I definitely have had that feeling for
Trance
sure.
out in music.
Oh yeah, totally. There's certain recordings that they just have such a strange energy to them that they just immediately suck me in and put me in whatever mood it is. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, some things have just such a beautiful cadence to them that they just kind of draw you, and you're like right there. But yeah, I can't explain it.
Um, what do you feel about the Baltimore music scene right now? Do you feel good about it?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of always felt good about the Baltimore music scene. When you think back, at least in my history of being involved with it, I've never known a time where it's felt like there's been like a dry spell or anything like that. Um, Even before like I don't know, like in the '90s, there was a ton of stuff too. I mean, it just goes, you can trace it back pretty far. There's always been at least some kind of cool movement happening. Um, right now, there's amazing stuff happening. I feel like every day I read about it or listen to a new band that I had no idea they were even from Baltimore. It's like something really cool. Um, and even though there's been some turbulence with like the Bell Foundry and that kind of thing, and all kinds of politics that are, people feeling displaced and that kind of thing, the music never stops. The music never changes. Um, it's always pretty constantly good.
That's a good way to look at it, because I definitely feel like we're lacking in a lot of ways in DIY spaces for music and for anything, like every kind of like community events
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So I just feel like this is a time where there aren't that many spaces available, and I feel like that's hard for artists.
That's true.
But the music, you're right, it doesn't stop.
Yeah, maybe it's, yeah. I mean, and if there were more spaces that were functioning, it might be easier to find out about it, or it might be easier to access it. But the music isn't stopping. It's just, yeah, it is a strange time with a lot of the politics and things that are happening right now. But but there's still art to see. There's still music to listen to. I wish it were a little bit more accessible.
But you're right. We are rich in everything artistic here, and there's a lot to be like grateful for.
Yeah,
I think.
Not to diss any other towns, but if you compare it to some of them, it's kind of like distilled, like the best parts of other towns distilled into like one smaller scene, and one of the things about going on tour is you kind of realize that, when you leave your home, you kind of miss it, or like the homesickness, or you kind of appreciate it on a different level when you're away from it, because you can really, basically any night of the week you can go see a quality show in Baltimore.
Could you imagine yourself living anywhere else besides Baltimore? Do you have dreams to do that one day?
No, not really.
Yeah, same. Like, this is home,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like a little bug that bites you. Like you're kind of, it's Stockholm syndrome or something.
Yeah, completely.
No, I've lived in Boston and I've lived in North Carolina, and they're both fine places, but definitely didn't feel like home in the way that Baltimore does. It's just such a strange. I feel like the standards and like the expectations that people have of each other in Baltimore are so different than other places. Like the standard isn't really, you know, show me your stuff. You know what I mean? It's more like, what conceptually are you doing? Like, what's the big plan? Whereas, in Boston, it was like, how fast can you play guitar? Like, blah, blah, blah. But here, it's more like, what are you trying to do? Not so much how well are you doing it. And I've always kind of felt that about Baltimore. It's more like, show me what you're trying to do. I don't care how well you can actually do it. You know what I mean? Because what's more interesting are things like on a conceptual level, maybe. But
Cool.
not to say that there aren't talented people in Baltimore. There's obviously tons of them, but the focus is more on a conceptual level.
Which really makes art interesting, I think, when you can look past the technical.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, include the technical,
Right.
but if you're really honoring
Yeah,
theory and
some of the ways to make the most interesting music or art or whatever is to not even really know the rules, and therefore you break them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You break them in a way that you are being yourself, being true to yourself, like what you would do without any training or anything. A lot of times people will, break the rules by learning every single one of them and then finding a way to break each one of them to make it interesting. But if you're just being yourself and you don't even know the rules, that's almost like the most interesting product that comes from that.
Baltimore is definitely a place that like nurtures visionary artists
Exactly.
like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to say what I just rambled about.
No, I love it. It's like,
Yeah.
so, and in every area, in like visual art, in music, in film,
right,
in everything, historically, and then still now.
Yeah, you can look beyond certain things that aren't perfect, which is what you do every day when you live in Baltimore, unfortunately. But
True.
also, it's just a reality of it. But you can really look beyond things that aren't like executed in like a perfect way to find a lot of beauty that you wouldn't normally see.
True. But do you ever feel like the energy in Baltimore is heavy living here? Like, how does its energy affect you as a person and an artist?
Yeah, it is heavy. It's definitely something that has a lot of weight to it. It's not like a party town. It's not like a, it's not what you would expect of other towns on the East Coast necessarily. But it definitely is something so unique in and of itself that I can't imagine being anywhere. Like, I feel like I'm gonna miss it even when I go on this tour. Like, what's going on in Baltimore? What am I missing? But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's part of the Stockholm syndrome or something. But it really, once you've spent time living in Baltimore, you're gonna at least feel that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's hard to leave. I mean, that's what all my family has always said, and I feel it too.
Yeah.
I try and go, but I always end up back here.
Yeah, maybe it's just the comfort of what you know, but I really think it's more than that. I think it's, there's just a gravity here, and maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe it's because in other towns people expect certain things of you, or you feel pressure in certain ways, but because Baltimore is less expensive than other towns nearby, and because it is much more of, like you said, like a visionary kind of place when it comes to like art and media, it's I don't know, there's something about it that, I don't know, it's a gravity to it.
And I think like shops like Bazaar and then Natural Velvet also being like a huge part of the Baltimore music scene. It's like these types of things that we have make Baltimore so special. Like, Baltimore wouldn't be as strong of a magnet if we didn't have like rad people like you putting out cool things.
That's really sweet. But I could say the same about you and about, I mean, any number of awesome people in this town. That's part of it. I mean, it's not just one of us. It's like everything woven together.
Totally.
Yeah, it really is a very unique place.
Can we talk about this art by Charles Manson and John Wayne Gacy? Because I do not... How long has this been here?
It's been here for a little while.
I did not notice it the last time I was in. Maybe somehow... You guys have to come into Bazaar to see everything, but definitely to see these framed... Are they paintings, all of them?
One's painting, a couple drawings.
Drawings, right?
Crayon drawing.
one by Charles
Okay.
Manson and two by John Wayne Gacy. I'm literally
Yeah.
shaking looking at these.
They're pretty creepy. Definitely darker things in the story. Yeah, it's I guess they call it murderabilia, which is
Oh,
a
I've
genre.
never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a genre of collecting that focuses mostly on the artwork and letters and documentation from serial killers, people who are famous for nefarious reasons. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
It really is. But for a while, I was obsessed with listening to the family jams.
Oh, yeah.
Which are like so by the Charles Manson
Right.
family, which are like eerily just chilling. Like
They're strange.
they're
Yeah.
super weird,
Very
right?
strange, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I don't know. People seem to really be drawn to in one way or another. They're very polarizing. And in some ways, I kind of hate that about them because I I don't really like things that are very polarizing sometimes because I don't know. It kind of it's good that it evokes something out of someone, but from someone who's trying to curate an experience when you come into the shop, I want everyone to feel at ease. We try to balance things out pretty well. Like, you might not like this taxidermy thing here, but right next to it, there's a, something cute. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a mismatch, mix of different things that are have different levels of seriousness to them. But with those things, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. They're kind of just creepy.
Yeah, I do think like a lot of us are definitely get obsessed with like serial killers and that kind
Yeah.
of story. Like,
Yeah.
as dark and upsetting as it is, like I definitely get that.
It's really an insight that you wouldn't get otherwise. I mean, you kind of see where they were going with the artwork, and you kind of get into that mindset too, just looking at it.
And it's fun to be scared.
It is fun to be scared.
These are truly scary.
They're scary.
The clown in the middle, and then Charles Manson's with the sperm egg. It's really scary.
Yeah, that one. It might be my least favorite piece of artwork ever. but I like that I like that it's here, and I like that that it's that people are responding to it. But
yeah,
it's definitely something that I'm glad it's not the first thing you see when you walk in.
Yeah, you're obviously doing a great job like curating and organizing the shop, because I was in like a month ago or something like that and didn't see them up there at all. It's just today that I saw them. So someone could definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a very small shop here.
But there's so much.
But yeah, I guess the idea is to do like 2 laps, So like the first time you go around, maybe you miss a few things, and then the second time you see it. Yeah, I do like how it's a smaller store though, because it does kind of feel like you're walking into like a closet or someone's like personal collection of stuff.
It really does.
Yeah, thanks. That's kind of what we're going for. I mean, there's been opportunities to, there's spaces that become available that are larger that we could move to, but I really like it here because, for one thing, it's not on the main drag. It's kind of like hidden around the corner. And then for another thing, it is so small, so we kind of really have to think a lot about, what we choose for it. Editing is key for that. And if I had a big space, who knows what would be in there. It might not be as curated, I guess. But yeah, it's good to creative limitations. You have to make decisions about what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah, it's fun to be in a small space and just everywhere you look is something interesting.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
Thank you.
So I think everyone should come to Bazaar. I think everyone should like feel the vibes in here. If anyone sees a ghost and they want to tell me about it, you or anyone listeing, I would love to hear.
Yeah, we will take down your ghost stories and forward them to Mary.
Yeah, I'm interested. And I also think that everyone should go listen to Natural Velvet, get the album.
Thanks,
Get it
yeah.
all 3 ways.
Yeah, it's
Tape, record.
Yep, it should be available in local record stores as well as at our shows and on the friendsrecords.com website. And yeah, we're really excited to share it with you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to tell everybody listening where they can find you?
Oh, sure, yep. So Bazaar is located at 3534 Chestnut Avenue in Hamden. We're right next to the Charmery, the ice cream shop. We're open every day except Tuesday. And yeah, we hope to see you soon.
Cool. And then go to the website, right?
Yeah, it's bazaarbaltimore.com. It's BAZAAR Baltimore.com.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg,
Thank
for
you, Mary.
having
This was so
this
much
chat
fun.
with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Yay.
Well, many blessings.
And to you.
Thank you, Greg, for being on the podcast, and thank you to everyone out there listening. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find my contact info on my website, www.maryshock.com. That's MARYSHOCK. You can find this podcast, Tarot Electric, on iTunes, where you can subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're on Facebook, you can join my Facebook group, Be More Tarot Club. That's BMORE space TAROT space CLUB. Be More Tarot Club. And that's a really good spot to show me your tarot spreads that you're pulling, ask me a question, get up to date on all the events I have coming up. And many blessings. Oh, and follow me on Instagram at Tarot Electric. Bye.